My wife cheated while I worked double shifts to pay our mortgage, so I sold the house and left her with nothing but regret. I'm a 33-year-old guy, and I honestly thought hard work could fix everything. My whole life, that's what I was taught, that if you put your head down, stay loyal, and keep grinding, good things eventually come your way. I carried that belief into my marriage with Natalie. We met when I was barely 20, and she was the kind of woman people notice the second she walks into a room, confident, warm. The type who made you feel like you were the only one she saw. I married her young, maybe too young. But I thought love was enough to weather anything. When we bought our house, I promised her I'd have it paid off before we hit 40. So I started working double shifts at the construction company. Mornings, nights, weekends if I could. My hands were always covered in dust and cuts. My back ached every night. But when I walked into our home and saw her smile, it felt worth it. At least it used to, a few months ago. Natalie said she wanted to quit her job, something about needing to focus on her mental health. I didn't question it. I told her, take your time. I've got us covered. She smiled, kissed me on the cheek, and said, you always do. That line stuck with me, part compliment, part reminder of how much she depended on me, but the more hours I worked, the more the house felt empty. She'd still be asleep when I left before sunrise, and sometimes she'd already be out when I got home. Our dinner table, once filled with laughter and little plans about the future, turned into a place for reheated meals and silence. Still, told myself this was just a phase, that every marriage had one. I didn't realize it then, but while I was breaking my body to build our future, something inside her was already slipping away. It started small, missed calls, late replies, a change in tone I couldn't quite name. I used to text Natalie during lunch breaks, just to check in, but lately, hours would pass before I'd get a one-word response like busy or fine. She used to call me babe, love, even idiot when she was joking. But now, everything she said felt sterile, polite, like we were business partners sharing a mortgage instead of a life. I blamed myself. Maybe I was working too much. Maybe I'd become boring, predictable. I'd leave early, come home late, and she'd already be out with friends. She said they were helping her get out of the house more, but something about the way she avoided eye contact when saying it made my stomach twist. One Friday night, I came home exhausted, expecting to find her curled up on the couch like she used to be. Instead, she was dressed up, red lipstick, heels, perfume that lingered like smoke. I managed a tired smile. Big night out? I asked. She barely looked up from her phone. Just dinner with the girls. Don't wait up. That line, don't wait up, hit harder than I wanted to admit. The house felt colder when she left. I sat on the couch with a microwave dinner, staring at the TV but not watching. Her laughter used to fill these walls. Now all I heard was the hum of the fridge and my own chewing. Later that week, I saw new photos of her on social media. Fancy restaurants, glowing filters, a new haircut I hadn't even noticed in person. She looked happy. Happier than I'd seen her in months. And there I was, covered in concrete dust, staring at my phone, wondering when I stopped being part of her happiness. Still, I told myself she just needed space, that she was finding herself again. But deep down, I felt something shifting, a quiet, invisible distance that was starting to swallow us whole. One Saturday, I came home early, a rare thing. My crew finished ahead of schedule, and I thought I'd surprise Natalie with takeout from her favorite Thai place. I remember humming on the drive home, picturing her smile, maybe even a movie night like we used to have. But the second I opened the door, I knew something was off. The air felt different, heavy. The house smelled faintly of perfume, not the kind Natalie usually wore. Something sweeter, almost unfamiliar. There were 2 wine glasses on the coffee table, one half empty, one with lipstick smudged around the rim. The TV was still on, low volume, and there was a blanket on the couch, crumpled, warm. My chest tightened. Natalie? I called out. She appeared from the hallway, startled. Her hair was messy, her shirt on backward. You're home early, she said too quickly. Yeah, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady.
Did you have company?
Her eyes darted toward the table. Oh, yeah. Lisa stopped by. She's going through some stuff. I nodded slowly, pretending to believe her. You could have called. I would have picked up dessert or something. She laughed awkwardly, brushing past me. You're always working, babe. I didn't want to bother you. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything. The wine glasses, the perfume, the panic in her voice. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was just tired. But when I checked the credit card statement the next morning, I saw charges that didn't make sense, expensive gifts, a new bracelet, hotel bar tabs from downtown. I confronted her gently, asking if she'd been shopping. She smiled like it was nothing. Retail therapy, she said. You'd understand if you weren't always covered in dust. Stung more than it should have. I laughed it off. But inside, something cracked. For the first time, I wondered if all my sacrifices were building a life for both of us, or just for her. A week later, I was fixing the front porch steps when my neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, stopped by. She's one of those older ladies who knows everything that happens in the neighborhood harmless, usually. She smiled and said, "Oh, I didn't know you had company during the day now." "I saw a black sedan parked in your driveway a few times this week." I froze. "Company?" I asked, forcing a laugh. "Probably deliveries." She tilted her head. "Well, maybe. But I saw someone get out once, tall man, nice suit. Thought he was a relative or something." My heart skipped. I brushed it off quickly, thanked her, and went back to work. But my hands were shaking so badly, I dropped the hammer. Inside, something in me refused to believe it. Yet another part whispered that I already knew the truth. That night, I told Natalie what Mrs. Jenkins had said, trying to sound casual. "You've had visitors lately?" She frowned, not even looking up from her phone. "What? No." Maybe she's confused. "You know how she gossips." I muttered, pretending to agree. But the lie slid too easily off her tongue. 2 days later, while Natalie was out, I did something I never thought I would. I installed a small security camera near the front door. I told myself it was for safety, for peace of mind, but I knew the real reason. I just needed to see. To stop wondering the next night, I sat in the dark, staring at my phone screen as the footage loaded. At first, nothing. Just her coming home, checking the mail. But then, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, there he was, the man in the suit. She opened the door, smiled, and pulled him inside. My stomach dropped. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just sat there watching the video loop again and again, realizing the woman I'd built my world around was living a double life right under my roof. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that moment, her smile as she let him in, the way she tilted her head when she laughed. That used to be my smile. I stared at the ceiling until morning, my chest tight, wondering how many times this had happened while I was breaking my back at work. When she came home the next evening, I couldn't pretend anymore. I sat at the table, the footage paused on my phone. She walked in, humming, dropped her purse, and froze when she saw my face. "Natalie," I said quietly, "who is he?" Her eyes flicked to my phone, then back to me. For a moment, guilt flashed, then it hardened into something cold. "Are you spying on me now?" she snapped. I blinked. "Spying? You're cheating on me? And that's what you're mad about?" She crossed her arms. "You're never here. You work all the time. You come home half dead, and you think throwing money at me makes you a husband?" Her words hit like bricks. "I was doing it for us," I whispered. "Us?" She laughed bitterly. "You mean you? You needed to play hero, the provider, the savior." The argument spiraled, voices rising until she screamed, "I fell out of love months ago." Silence followed, heavy final. I stared at her, realizing I'd lost her long before I caught her. She didn't apologize. She didn't even look sorry. Instead, she said something that broke whatever was left of me. "He makes me feel alive. Something you stopped doing a long time ago." I wanted to scream, to break something, but all I could manage was a whisper, "Then I hope he's worth it." She turned away without answering. That night, I sat alone in the same house I'd built for her, realizing I'd been financing her affair. Every hour of overtime, every aching bone, every sacrifice had paid for her comfort, while she gave my life to someone else. The days after that confrontation blurred together. Natalie moved through the house like a stranger, cold and distant, humming to herself while scrolling her phone. I thought the cheating was the worst of it, but I was wrong. The real blow came a week later. I was sitting at my desk after another sleepless night when I noticed her laptop left open. Normally, I'd never snoop. But something inside me, the same instinct that told me she was lying, pushed me to look. At first, I just saw emails from her friends, some shopping receipts. Then, buried under a folder labeled personal, I found the messages. They weren't just flirty texts. They were plans. Plans to file for divorce after I finished paying off the mortgage. Messages between her and him about waiting it out so she could get the house clean. My hands went numb as I read line after line. He's almost done paying it off. Once it's in her name, she'll finally be free. I remember whispering, free from what? Though deep down, I already knew. For me, from the man who gave up everything for her, I backed away from the desk, shaking. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was financial, calculated. Every late shift, every hour I worked until my knuckles bled. She'd been counting down the days to cash in. That night, I couldn't eat, couldn't think. I sat in the dark with a beer, staring at the blank TV screen. I thought about confronting her again, but something stopped me. Instead, I grabbed my phone and started taking photos. The messages, the emails, the timestamps. I backed them up, organized them, even printed copies at work. If she wanted to play a long game, I could play longer. I realized something important that night. Heartbreak fades, but humiliation sticks. I wasn't going to cry or beg this time. I was going to make sure the person who destroyed my trust learned what it felt like to lose everything they built their lives on. After that night, something inside me shifted. The heartbreak was still there, sharp, hollow, unrelenting, but beneath it, a quiet kind of rage began to grow. Not the kind you yell about, the kind you plan with. I started pretending everything was fine. I told Natalie I wanted to move forward, to work on us. Her shoulders relaxed at that. She even smiled. I knew you'd come around, she said, kissing me like she hadn't gutted my soul a week earlier. I kissed her back, but inside, I was memorizing every lie she told, every fake smile she gave. She grew comfortable again, careless even. Her phone stayed unlocked on the counter, her laptop open on the couch. I played dumb, the hard-working husband desperate to save his marriage. Meanwhile, I was visiting a lawyer during lunch breaks, quietly learning what she didn't want me to know. The house was entirely under my name. The mortgage, the deed, every document. She'd tried transferring ownership months ago, but failed because she needed my signature. When I heard that, something cold and satisfying washed over me. For the first time in months, I felt like I had control again. At home, kept working double shifts, only now it wasn't for her. It was for the finale. She'd look at me and say, "You're still killing yourself for that mortgage," and I'd just smile and say, "Yeah, just a few more months." Every night, I'd come home and sit across from her at dinner, nodding while she told half-truths. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her shadow, watching, waiting. It's strange how calm you can feel when you finally stop trying to fix something that's already dead. I wasn't chasing love anymore. I was building an ending, one she'd never see coming. For weeks, I played my role perfectly, the forgiving husband, the man trying to make things right. I cooked dinner sometimes, left notes like, "Missed you today" on the fridge, just to keep her guard down. But the irony was, I didn't miss her. I missed the person I thought she was, the woman who used to wait up for me with dinner. Not the one sneaking messages to another man while I worked through the night. Then came the night that burned everything down. It was a Thursday, I remember, because I'd told her I'd be on a double shift. But a sudden storm canceled our work for the evening. Something told me not to call ahead. I drove home in the rain, the windshield wipers barely keeping up. When I pulled into the driveway, that same black sedan was there again. My stomach sank. I didn't even feel anger anymore, just a strange numbness. I walked up to the door, pushed it open quietly, and heard it laughter hers, echoing down the hall. I followed it to the bedroom, and there they were. My wife, tangled in sheets that I'd picked out in a home that I'd paid for, with a man who probably didn't even know my name. She gasped when she saw me, scrambling to cover herself, but I didn't shout. I didn't curse. I just stood there, dripping rain onto the carpet, staring at the woman I once believed I'd grow old with. He bolted, muttering something like, "Man, I didn't know," before running out the door. Natalie cried, begged, "Please, it's not what it looks like." And I actually laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh, more like a sound from someone who's finally lost everything. I picked up my keys, said only, "You've made your choice," and walked out. The rain hit my face like needles as I got into the truck. For the first time, I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt empty, and emptiness, I realized, is freedom in disguise. The next morning, I woke up on my friend's couch with a headache that had nothing to do with sleep. My phone buzzed nonstop. Texts from Natalie, missed calls, voicemails ranging from tears to rage. I didn't respond to a single one. I just stared at the ceiling, feeling a kind of quiet clarity settle in. The love, the pain, the confusion, it was all gone. What was left was purpose. I called my lawyer that afternoon. "I want to sell the house," I said simply. He hesitated. "You sure?" "That's marital property, not legally," I corrected him. "It's in my name. Every payment came from my account." "Check the paperwork," he did. And when he confirmed it, I could almost hear the disbelief in his voice. "Then it's yours to do with as you please." That line stuck with me all day, as I please. For once, I could make a decision that wasn't about her. Over the next few weeks, I set everything in motion. Realtors came by when Natalie was out with friends. I scheduled showings when she thought I was working late. The buyers loved the place. Clean, modern, move-in ready. They had no idea it was a monument to betrayal. I even started packing some of my things, just the essentials. When Natalie noticed boxes in the garage, she asked, "What's all this?" "Just clearing space," I said, smiling faintly. "Trying to declutter." She shrugged. Too busy texting to care. When the deal finally went through, I transferred her clothes, shoes, and vanity junk into storage, paid 6 months in advance, labeled every box, left the receipt taped to the empty closet door. Then I wired the rest of the money into a new account. One she couldn't touch, and waited. The house sold quietly, paperwork signed, keys exchanged. Natalie didn't even notice until the day the new owners showed up at the door, contract in hand, and for the first time in years, I was already gone. I was already 2 towns away when it happened. My phone lit up with 20 missed calls from Natalie, followed by one text that simply read, "What did you do?" Then another, "There are people here saying the house isn't ours anymore." I could almost hear her voice through the screen, the panic, the disbelief. I didn't reply. I just stared at the message for a long while, then locked the phone and went back to sipping my coffee. For the first time in months, it tasted good. Later that evening, I got a call from one of her friends, her voice dripping with accusation. "You can't just sell the house, man. That's her home too." I let out a quiet laugh. "It was our home," I said, "until she made it his." Apparently when the buyers arrived, Natalie lost it. She screamed through things, demanded to see me. The new owners, polite older couple, didn't know what to do. I heard she called the cops, but when they saw the paperwork, they told her there was nothing they could do. The house was legally mine to sell. She was just a guest who'd overstayed her welcome. That night, she showed up at my work site, red-eyed, hair messy, voice trembling. "You ruined my life," she hissed. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "No, Natalie, you ruined ours. I just finished what you started." She tried to guilt me, even cried, but it didn't land anymore. The woman standing in front of me wasn't my wife. She was just a stranger who burned everything I built, and now stood in the ashes, wondering why it was cold. When she realized I wasn't going to fight, she broke down completely, muttering, "He left me. He said I'm too much drama." Didn't say a word. I just turned, walked back to my truck, and drove away. Her voice faded behind me, swallowed by the sound of the rain. After that night, I disappeared from her life entirely. Changed my number, blocked her on everything, moved 2 hours away to a small apartment overlooking a lake. It wasn't fancy, a worn couch, creaky floors, paint peeling near the windows, but it was mine. No memories, no ghosts, no hollow laughter echoing through empty rooms. Just peace. At first, the silence felt unbearable. I'd wake up expecting to hear her in the kitchen or catch a whiff of her perfume in the hallway. But there was nothing. Just the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the sound of water lapping against the dock outside. And strangely, that silence started to feel like healing. I'd go for long walks in the evenings, sometimes just watching the sunset paint the lake orange and gold. That's when it hit me. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was free. The pain she caused had carved out space in me. That emptiness was filling with something new, strength. One evening, my buddy Mark came by with a six-pack. He slapped my shoulder and said, "Man, you look better than I've seen you in years." I laughed. Guess rock bottom has a good view once you climb out. We talked for hours about life, work, everything except her. And it felt good not to mention her name. Like she'd become just another lesson in a story I'd already finished reading. Late that night, I sat by the window, the moon reflecting off the lake. And I whispered to myself, I lost everything I thought I wanted. But I found myself again, for the first time in years. I slept without dreams, no guilt, no betrayal. Just the soft hum of peace that only comes after surviving a storm you thought would drown you. Months passed. The seasons changed, and with them, so did I. I'd built a quiet rhythm work. Walks, coffee at the same diner every morning. Life was simple, predictable, and mine again. I stopped checking her social media, stopped wondering what she was doing, until one evening, out of nowhere, a message request appeared on my phone. It was from Natalie. I know I don't deserve it, but can we talk? For a long minute, I just stared at the screen. The old me would have answered looking for closure, maybe even sympathy. But now, I felt nothing. Still, curiosity won. I opened the message thread, and what I saw wasn't anger or arrogance. It was regret, raw, desperate regret. He left me. Everyone did. I can't afford rent, and my family won't help. I miss you. I miss us. You sold the house, but you still have my heart. I read it twice, maybe 3 times. And then I deleted it. Not out of spite, but peace. There was nothing left to say. Some endings don't need revenge. Just silence. A few weeks later, I drove past the old neighborhood. Our house looked different. New owners, new colors, kids' bikes in the driveway. I parked across the street for a moment, just watching. It didn't hurt anymore. If anything, it felt poetic. The place that once held all my pain now filled with laughter again as I pulled away. I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror, calm, older, maybe, but lighter. I whispered, I built that life for us. But I rebuilt myself for me. And that was the truth. She lost everything because she wanted more than love. I gained everything because I finally learned what love really meant. Respect, peace, and walking away when staying would destroy you.